Okay, hello students. This particular video is about about the transformation of stretch and compress, and what this is it multiplies either the x or the y values of the shape by a stretch factor of a. Okay, so this is a stretch or compress. So the first one we're going to look at is where a is greater than 1, and that is a stretch. Okay, so if a stretch will take the point xy, and we are going to multiply the x value first by a. So the point xy becomes a times xy. So let's look at see what this does to a rectangle. So here's a rectangle for us to look at, and let's multiply this by a factor of 2. Okay, so when we do this, what's going to happen is all of the x values here are going to be multiplied by 2. So if I start at the point -1, 3, the -1 would be multiplied by 2 and become -2, 3. The point -1, 1 will become the point -2, 1, -1. The point 2, 3 will become the point 4, 3. And the point 2, -1 will become the point 4, -1. So our new rectangle has been stretched to look like this. So when we're multiplying the x, it is a horizontal. You can see it's been stretched horizontally. Okay, and I'd also like to point out to you that when we stretch this shape, some of the points don't actually change. The same point that was here on the y-axis is still here on the y-axis, and actually this line here, any point that would be on this line, it stays the same. We're stretching it like this, okay, but we're stretching it from this line. So this line here and the y values don't change. This is called the invariant line. The invariant is the y. Okay, so this is the invariant line. Alright, now let's see how it looks when we multiply the y value by a factor of 2. So if we take the point xy, and this time keep the x the same, and multiply the y value by y, and I'm going to do the same rectangle, okay, and we're going to this time we're going to multiply all the y values by a factor of 2. This is x, this is y. Okay, so the point -1, 3 will become the point -1, 6. And 2, 3 will become 2, 6. Multiplying this one by 2, -1, -1 will become -1, -2. And 2, -1 becomes 2, -2. So our new rectangle looks like this, and it has been stretched horizontally. So this is, it has been stretched vertically. So this is a vertical stretch. And the invariant for this one is the x-axis. These points right here actually stay the same on both shapes. And we're stretching it out this way from the x-axis. So the invariant is x. Okay, great. Now, what about when a is less than 1? When A is less than 1, we have a compression. So, when I look at this shape, let's see if we can compress this by A equals 1/2. Okay, so when we do that, the point xy will move to the point, well, first I'm going to compress the x, 1/2 x, comma y. Okay, so how does this shape change? How does it look? When I press it in the x direction, the points change like this, and it becomes thinner. Okay, and when I compress it in the y direction, so when I compress it in the y direction, these points come in, and it ends up looking like this. Okay, so this is what compression in the x and the y direction look like. And the last thing is what happens if A happens to be negative. If A is negative, the graph is going to flip. It's going to be a reflection. So let's make our A value -1 and see what happens. If we make the x value negative, okay, and right now I'm going to let A be 1. Then when we take our rectangle, we just change the sign of all of the x values. So it starts at -1, it's going to go to +1. So now we're at +1, 3. And +2, 3 will change to -2, 3. This point -1, 1 will reflect to +1, -1. And -2, -1 will reflect to -2, -1. Okay, so this is like a reflection of this shape over the y-axis. Okay, and when we make the y negative, which happens like this. This point will move down here. 1, 2, 3. This becomes -1, -3. This point also moves down to -3. To -3. And the point -1, -1 moves up to -1, +1. And to +1. Okay, so this is a reflection of the shape over the line, over the x-axis. So this is a reflection over x-axis and over the y-axis. All right, and this is going to be really helpful when we study other functions as well. So that's it for stretch compress.